Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are happy you joined us. We are starting while we are still waiting for some people. I'm happy, and I'm especially happy that many of you are here for the second time in our series of 3 workshops. Our valued host and NSCG representative Michele De Nigris will soon explain why this is a 3 events series and what NSCG is all about and why it is so important to have it. Me, I'm Ludwig Karg, I'm your moderator for this afternoon. Before I let Michele speak, let me say thank you to all the supporters that make or made this happen, especially to Martin Bracken from Clarence, who is my technical support here, and also the people from Sabala who made it work in the framework of the ETIP SNET. Only one technical information, since I am not going to tell you that you have to switch off and switch on in the right way, you know all that. Only one technical issue is that many of you, I think, have enjoyed the recording from our first meeting. So we will also record this one. If you don't want to see your face in the recording, and we will display it because the people for the 3rd event should see what we have been talking about. If you don't want to see your face, please just don't switch on or don't say nothing or whatever you do. The recording has been started already. I think it works. So, Michele, we have an agenda. The agenda says that you do the welcome. And then we have 2 keynote speeches from Michael Krug and Daniel Berger. The Daniel Berger will be replaced by his boss, Herbert Greisberger. That's nice to see. Then we have 2 more small introductory speeches from Professor Scheller and from Gerhard Meindl. You will see that they will introduce themselves. And then we have a 1 hour and 20 minutes panel discussion with people from international, with people from local, with people from industry, from academia, and so on. Michele, why did we invite these people? I think you want to share some nice slides. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much, and thank you, Ludwig, for introducing me, and welcome to all the participants in this 2nd event of the National Stakeholders Coordination Group from the European Technology Innovation Platform, the ETIP SNET on Smart Networks for an Energy Transition, and the related environment. So what we want to speak about here is about industry and policy that are jointly trying to optimize the European Union and the national research and development and innovation activities, with special reference to the flexibility aspect. So the development of the energy system will need always more flexibility, and during these events we want to make some kind of reasoning about the needs and about the opportunities and about the mechanisms for this flexibility. So let me show you very quickly 2 or 3 slides. This is PowerPoint Live. Strange things. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So the focus of today, this is the 2nd event. We had the first event about a month ago, where we discussed about the needs for flexibility. Here, we want to discuss about the contribution of energy communities to local and regional flexibility aspects. So let me just recall with few words about the role and about the scope of the National Stakeholders Coordination Group. The National Stakeholders Coordination Group is somehow a discussion platform working with the private, with the global, European, local, and regional energy systems and frameworks to bring local requirements and the local potential to the general attention, so as to bring and to start and to pursue discussion on all the different aspects that can be of interest in the development of technical and policy issues of interest for the local, for the regional, for the national, and for the European framework. In this respect, so the National Stakeholders Coordination Group has organized a series of 3 events around flexibility. As I told you, we had a first event last month dealing with the flexibility needs. We are now discussing about the energy community's contribution to local and regional flexibility. And on the 14th of June, we are going to gather in Rome physically to discuss about technologies and market for local and regional flexibility. This is going to be a hybrid meeting, so we will meet in person. We will, of course, give the possibility using the modern systems to have a remote connection also to someone. The meeting point is going to be Acquirente Unico in Rome, and the program is going to be not only technical but also with the possibility to network and to be together for some time discussing about all these important aspects. So I don't want the program is extremely dense, and I don't want to take your time more. We will have the possibility also to touch with hand about the value and the results of the National Stakeholders Coordination Group. So just relax and take advantage of this meeting, and I really hope to see you physically in Rome next month. But in the meantime, just fasten your seatbelts and let's go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michele. Relaxing does not mean that you shut up. I mean, you can also send us questions on the chat. We will bring that to the panel. But first of all, we let some valued people speak. Michael Krug is showing his face already. If Michael also shows his slides, go ahead. You introduce yourself. I think that's better as if I would do it. Michael, your turn. You take the screen.
So, can you see the screen, the presentation?
Can you run it your own, or shall I do that?
Usually it's no problem. Can you see not? You cannot see it at
Not
the moment?
yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, no. I can give up sharing and maybe that helps a bit. I mean, if it doesn't work, let me show it. Is that fair for you?
Yes, let's do it this way. It's strange. I never had such a situation that I cannot see my presentation here. Okay. Sorry.
Let me share it.
It's a very common problem. Don't worry.
You have it.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it, right?
Yes. Thank you very much, Ludwig. And Michele, thank you for inviting me here to this workshop. My name is Michael Krug, and I'm a researcher at Freie Universität Berlin at the Environmental Policy Research Center. And I have a background in administration science. And together with my colleague, Rosaria Dinucci, we coordinated the CAMRES project, the Horizon 2020 project, which recently was finished in February. So the first slide to show the relationship between energy communities and flexibility, the topic of this workshop. What are energy communities? I guess you know everything about energy communities. These are collective initiatives. They organize collective and citizen-driven energy actions. This is a very general definition for energy communities. They also help to provide flexibility to the energy system in different ways. Firstly, they can engage in collective self-consumption and energy sharing at the community level, kind of community self-balancing. Then they can help to avoid grid congestion problems and participate in local flexibility markets. And they can offer flexibility products and services in balancing sub-markets and markets, and thus contribute to system stability and frequency stabilization. A few sentences about the CAMRES project. We had many activities, and we did analysis of framework conditions, analysis of potentials for renewable energy communities, financing instruments, good practices. We also tried to initiate transfers of good practices. And we did a comparative assessment of enabling frameworks for renewable energy communities member states are obliged to develop. And as a horizontal activity, this is also the focus of my presentation. And as a horizontal activity, we had regular stakeholder dialogues in the forms of thematic workshops and country desks in our 9 countries which participated in the project. So I come to this comparative assessment. We analyzed to what extent the 9 countries involved in our project transposed the provisions for renewable energy communities. And what are renewable energy communities? You are probably familiar with this, but perhaps some of you not. Therefore, very briefly, the definition, renewable energy communities are legal entities which can be characterized by open and voluntary participation. The shareholders and members may be natural persons, SMEs, and local authorities. There are some governance criteria like autonomy or effective control, which should be performed by shareholders, members located in the proximity of the renewable energy projects. Or primary purpose. The primary purposes should not be financial profit, but more environmental, economic, and social community benefits for the members or also the local areas. Next slide. The directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, also says several things about the rights of renewable energy communities. Member states have to transpose also these rights. Renewable energy communities should be entitled to produce, consume, store, and sell renewable energy. They should be entitled to share within their communities renewable energy, and they should have access to all suitable energy markets, both directly and through aggregation. And this includes also wholesale and flexibility markets. And member states should carry out assessments of barriers and potentials of RECs, of renewable energy communities. They should provide an enabling framework for renewable energy communities, and they should take into account specificities of RECs when they design support schemes for renewable energy. And member states had to transpose these provisions by end of June 2021. The directive also formulates specific elements of an enabling framework for renewable energy communities. I just listed a few of them. There are some more, but for our purposes, I concentrated on this one. Member states should ensure that there are no unjustified regulatory and administrative barriers, that the relevant DSOs should cooperate with the renewable energy communities to facilitate energy sharing. RECs should be subject to fair, proportionate, and transparent procedures and cost-reflective network charges. They should contribute in an adequate, fair, and balanced way to the overall cost sharing of the system in line with a transparent cost-benefit analysis. And they shouldn't be subject to any discriminatory treatment with regard to their activities. Now, to our comparative assessment. Our comparative assessment focused on 3 sections: the definitions, rights, and market activities of renewable energy communities. Then we looked into the core elements of the enabling frameworks, which I just presented. And we looked into the question to what extent the REC specificities are considered in support scheme designs. And the status of our analysis was 15th of July. And we did a qualitative and a quantitative assessment. Here you can see the rating system, very schematic and very general. A 5 points rating system. 0 is worst case, where legislation or policies and measures are neither in place nor planned. And 5 would be the best practice, where legislation is in place, regulations are fully in line with the RED II provisions, and even there's additional guidance and secondary legislation in place already specifying further provisions. So now to the results of our analysis. The first sections, definitions, rights, and market activities of RECs. You can see the 9 countries which we analyzed, and you can see on the left side the different elements which we analyzed, including the different governance criteria, but also the activities, the key activities, and energy sharing, and the access to suitable energy markets. And yeah, you can see that most of our analyzed countries have definitions now in place, except Latvia. There are still some concretization necessary. Netherlands have only drafted legislation still, even today. Poland that didn't make any attempts to transpose the Renewable Energy Directive, and okay, Portugal and Spain look already or again better. But where you can see still some gaps are energy sharing and an access to the suitable energy markets. Here is the second section of our analysis, enabling frameworks for renewable energy communities. On the left side, again, the different criteria specified by the Renewable Energy Directive. And here you can see that enabling frameworks are still very fragmentary and patchy. And especially in the middle of this slide, integration into spatial planning and cooperation with DSOs and the transparent cost-benefit analysis which member states should provide. These are very big gaps. Yeah, almost none of the countries analyzed did make any serious attempts to follow this. And here you can see the third section, support schemes and incentives. Again, quite fragmentary and patchy, but you can see that some countries are in front of others, like Italy, for example, is showing the best performance, transposition performance, but also the Netherlands, although they don't have the definition in place, they have quite advanced enabling framework and also support schemes and incentives. And while the others are still lagging behind. So conclusions, the progress of transposition varies considerably in those countries we analyzed. Italy and Flanders in Belgium, I have to say that we analyzed only Flanders and not the total country, had made so far the most progress in transposing the definitions, rights, and possible market activities. In many cases, we have a literal transposition, a copy and paste approach from the directive without further specifications and concretizations. Italy and Flanders can be regarded as frontrunners in terms of energy sharing, and enabling frameworks, as I mentioned, are still fragmentary. And the next slide. Removal of existing barriers is essential in all countries. We still have lengthy permitting procedures or registration procedures, which are a key barrier. In some countries like Italy, Spain, or also Poland, we have geographical, technical, and other restrictions for renewable energy communities which should be removed. We saw that the Recovery and Resilience Fund plays a very important role to promote energy communities in some countries. I mentioned here Italy, Spain, Poland, Portugal. And the creation of an enabling framework is a multi-level governance task. It's not only the federal government, but it comprises all levels of government. And if you go to the next slide, you can see that we identified some promising policies and measures, like a premium tariff for energy sharing in Italy, or quantitative targets for renewable energy communities in Flanders, Netherlands, and Poland, or revolving funds providing startup financing for RECs in Germany and Netherlands, and some other promising policies. The last slide, findings regarding to flexibility. I have to say, flexibility was not a focus in our project. Yeah, we touched upon flexibility issues in some of our activities, but it has never been a focus of our project. But anyway, the access to flexibility markets is quite challenging due to high pre-qualification and capacity requirements for renewable energy communities. Almost none of the countries we analyzed provided a transparent cost-benefit analysis for renewable energy communities. Only few countries have provisions for energy sharing and rules to facilitate cooperation with DSOs. And only few countries have economic incentives so far to enable energy sharing or promoting grid-serving behavior or flexibility services. I mentioned the premium tariff in Italy. Italy has also reduced grid charges for renewable energy communities. The same applies for Portugal and Spain as well. So, but the other countries, we didn't find similar incentives. So here are the links to the CAMRES project, where you can find much more information that it was possible to give here. And also ResCoop has a transposition tracker where you can also find detailed information on the transposition status in the different countries, and also referring to our project. ResCoop was also part of our project. So thank you very much.
Thank you for this.
I hope it was quite in time. Yes.
That was good. That was what we expected from you. Yeah, I can refer people really to all these documentations. I have seen them. Excellent. Only one last question, Michael.
Yes.
Why didn't you look at Austria? Forgot it. Herbert, they forgot you. Herbert, they forgot you.
Austria would a best practice case, I would say. Yeah, we always had a look to Austria and also invited experts from Austria to our final workshop. But CAMRES developed out of another project, WinWind, which was dedicated to acceptance of wind energy. And there we had already a set of partners, and which we enlarged. But unfortunately, we didn't have Austria with us.
Michael, Austria will forgive you.
And they can.
We invited Austria. We invited a speaker. We invited Daniel Berger from the Energy Environment Agency of Lower Austria.
Yeah.
But obviously he cannot come. So in a good company, the boss stands in. Herbert. And we got a good one. You are also in IEA, you are also in Federin. I don't know if you want to share some slides or if you just want to tell us what's going on in Austria and Europe and everywhere.
Thank you very much, Ludwig, and thank you very much, Michael, for the presentation. We were not part of this study, but there will be many other studies on energy communities, so that's not the last one. I don't have any slides because it was a little bit too on short notice that I should step in and give a presentation here. I want to tell you first a little bit about Federin. Federin is the European network of regional and local energy agencies. So we are about 80 organizations from 20 countries. My own organization is from Lower Austria, that's around Vienna. We have about 120 employees, and energy communities are one of the fields we're very much involved in for several reasons. That's the background. The second I want to tell you, and I was very interested in Michael's presentation, and checking with the Austrian situation, because most of the things, at least as far as I can see, are in place in Austria since 2.5 years. We also have a platform in Austria containing the country level and all the regions. So for each region, we are 9 regions in Austria. One region, one organization is actively working with renewable energy communities and supporting them. We do have a supporting scheme that pays you up to 25,000 euros for front runners for renewable energy communities, especially for more innovative ones that are also supporting the grid system. These are the new ones. And what else do we have? So we have quite a network here. We have 3 different forms of energy communities. The first one is more or less a jointly acting renewable self-consumers that we call it. That's a PV system in one building with several households, so they can share their electricity. In Austria, there exist about 1,200 of these energy communities. The legislation was implemented 6 or 7 years ago, so that's before the implementation of the directive. Then we have the renewable energy communities on the local level and on the regional level. To give you an idea, on the local level, it's typically about 20 households that can participate. On the regional level, that's about 20,000 households that can participate. At the moment, we have exactly 800 yesterday, 800 renewable energy communities. I guess about 450 of them are active operating at the moment. The other ones are coming in. Every quarter of a year, it is more or less a doubling of energy communities. A year ago, we had, I think, about 20 or so. Now we have about 800. We do have a reduction for the energy grid tariffs for renewable energy communities. We do have financial support. We do have exceptions from energy taxes. So there is an advantage to compare to other sources of energy. And we also have citizens' energy communities. They are starting 1st of October this year. When you go from one Austrian region to another one, you already can have citizens' energy communities within a certain region since, I think, a year or so. At the moment, we have officially 180 of these energy communities, but I do not know how many of them are really operating at the moment. I guess they will all start second half of this year. So that's the situation from my side. We do have a specific system. It's different from what we've seen from Portugal, from Italy, from Spain. So from my side, I would say it's the perfect area to learn from other countries, what's working, what is not working. We do face quite some opposition from utilities. We do have the problem, or it's not a problem, I would say, not at the beginning. They do not contribute to the security of the grid or to the flexibility at the moment. So we have to come up with a framework so that they better fit into the system. But that's something we have to learn from other countries, from our own experience, and I'm happy to hear your experience in this workshop. So
Thank you
very much.
Thank you for this quick input, Herbert. Let me ask you something. I mean, you said about Federin, which is cooperation on national levels and regional levels, and you are also in IEA, the International Energy Agency. Since long, I don't know, we met 15 years ago, we are that old. You have 800 of these energy communities. Do you feel like it helps? Does it help? What does it help? The energy transition, the grid stability, the energy democracy, or what is the real purpose?
The basic idea is to increase the acceptance for renewables.
Okay.
That's the major point. The second is to increase the investments.
Okay.
And it's not an explicit target to help the energy system or the electricity system.
Okay.
When the movement becomes stronger, we should more focus on this. So the ones that the front runners, they're more or less working on how to cooperate with the grid, to support the grid, and to get more renewables into the grid system. So but it's too early at the moment because they're really more or less starting. The ones that are operating since a year, okay, you could learn something from that, but not too much. There is also a monitoring system established for the energy communities. They will provide a report in July 24. So also asking for how can we improve the system of the energy communities.
We will hear two speeches now from Professor Scheller and from Gerhard Meindl. One is from academia, one is from industry, energy industry. They will give us a bit more light, but one last question to you, Herbert. I don't know, I remember you saying sometime I start my day sometimes on national level and I finish it on local level. I mean, we are discussing here from European level to national level to regional to local. That's what we try to do with this series. How does that work in Austria or in Europe in this silo of governance?
So usually I tell to my employees when they start in the company, I'm still officially a chair member of the highest R&D group in the world. Some of the G7 decisions I've typed on my computer.
Okay.
But nevertheless, we have to go from the global perspective to European one, to national one, and to local one to be successful. And that's what we expect from our company. So I know there's a break between local and regional ones and national and international ones. But I think we should break through the ceiling. So that's...
Can NSCG do that? Give us hope. Please give us hope that with the NSCG and with our little series of events, we can contribute to that. Say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. You said yes. Thank you, Herbert. You can stay with us for a while. I know that you have to leave 3:30 or so. You can jump in and comment as you want. But now let's first have two speeches from, as I said, Professor Fabian Scheller. Mechanisms. Now we really want to dig a bit into flexibility management with energy communities. Can it work? Does it work? Can energy communities foster it? And so on. You can share your slides, please, Florian.
Yes,
Florian, sorry,
I will
Fabian.
try to share my slides. Do you see the presentation mode?
Yeah, fine. Or... Yeah, okay.
Perfect. Thank you for the invitation. And my name is Fabian Scheller. I'm professor at the Technical University of Applied Sciences in Würzburg-Schweinfurt. But before I worked at the Technical University of Denmark, and there I was a project member of the Flexus project. And I also want to present today 3 research highlights of this project I personally worked on. And before we maybe dive into the flexibility messages I want to give about energy communities, I also want to share at least, again, some definition of the energy communities and want to go on what roles energy communities can play before I then really state the 3 research results. Maybe from the beginning, we already heard the definitions, but also if we talk about the transition, then we always need to talk also about the adoption of renewables or energy sources, at least like wind and photovoltaic solar. And here you can see then the change of the passive consumer, which you see in the lower left corner. And with the self-generation, you can self-consume the generated electricity by photovoltaic, for example, and with the right IT technology or with the storage, etc., he can also be a smart prosumer. In this way, we all have, or most of the countries have quite favorable legislations at the moment, and you don't have to pay a lot of taxes for that. If we now change to the community level, that the prosumer is not only investing alone into the technologies, but even is sharing energy in the community, like you see in the top right corner of the figure, then it's getting more difficult. One of the main reasons is that we use the public grid and that we also more or less deal not only with feeding in, but also with trading on the wholesale market, etc. And here I think are also not problems, but at least some of the issues you have with the community-based model of energy communities and sharing, trading, etc. energy. I don't go over the definition again because I think we have already heard it. But it's again important to know the community members do not necessarily need to live in the same house, but even in a multi-family building, for example, we have different frameworks in different countries, so we already have some restrictions of energy communities. But also if the community members are living more far from each other, then we even have more legal issues. If we think about the flexibility services, then we can think about the community itself first of all. Here we can see in the community that we can facilitate more or less energy consumption or energy sharing, and we have to first of all also make the different consumers aware that there are possibilities to increase the energy consumption or the flexibility, but also the investment possibilities of shared assets. And otherwise we can supply of shared energy and we can peer-to-peer supply, and we have peer-to-peer supply between the prosumers. If we now even take further roles of the energy community, we can also supply energy to other communities or to the market, and we can act as a community, as an aggregator, and can in this case provide flexibility for the distribution service operator, transmission service operator, or any other balancing responsible party. And here, for example, a community can take over the distribution system operator and tasked at least in some way. But if we talk also about the exchange or the interplay with the existing actors of the energy systems, then the energy community is also gaining more responsibilities and have to follow more legal responsibilities. And in this case, I want to highlight 3 research results we gained through the Flexis project. First of all, that energy communities, according to us, are a good option to integrate renewable energy production in the region, but at the same time, the legal framework regarding the fees and levy to use the public grid is important, that the energy is really integrated and that the communities are working well. In the second research, we looked at different data or consumption data in Denmark. And here we see if an energy community is also taking over tasks of, for example, a distribution service provider, then we also need to make sure that the energy community has the right awareness and also can deal with issues like in moments when there's a high demand and limited flexibility, when heat pumps, when it's cold and all the heat pumps are running in a community. If we have in days enough flexibility with electric vehicles, for example, it's no problem. But in colder days, like I show you in a few seconds more, it's more severe and not so easy to solve. And the third research highlight I want to show is that in order to incentivize energy communities regarding the right flexible behavior, for example, when we have a high pressure on the grid, then we need new tariff designs, at least volumetric grid tariff designs, that help to shift the burden across technologies and across different household types. If you think about energy communities, we always have to think also about social behavior, but also different social groups, and that we more or less not only put every burden on the low income groups. In the first statements what I made about the fees and levies, the right fees and levies, we looked at different community layouts and we implemented different flexibility options like demand response, but also concepts like community energy storage systems. And here you see, for example, that the different flexibility options integrate or are able to integrate most of the self-produced energy across the neighborhood in our case, and a technology like a storage system can provide with a lower capacity the same self-consumption rate in a neighborhood in comparison to household storages, for example. However, the policy frameworks are really affecting the different business models. And so it's quite important also if we implement the policy, if we implement the energy communities, that we always keep an eye on the fee and levy systems, and the business models have to align with that. The second one, the local grid pressure and the professional expert knowledge. We analyzed the residential electrification or the residential consumption patterns in Denmark. We analyzed more than 700,000 smart meter data points in Denmark. And here we see, when we look at the figures, at the left figure, we see the one day of the year. So it's not a representative day here, but it's one day of the year. We see that we have the regular consumption pattern of a household, and the median and the average are close to each other, and the variance between the 720,000 households is quite low. When we now implement an electric vehicle, or if we look at the households which implemented an electric vehicle already, then we see that we already have a gap between the average, which is the regular line, and the dotted line. The dotted line is the average and the other line is the median. So we already see that the median values and the average values are not really similar to each other anymore, and we see a high variance. In this high variance, we see already that we have a lot of flexibility across the different households with the electric vehicles. In the last figure, we see now households with heat pumps on the same day. And here we see that the median and average are quite similar again, but really high in comparison to the other two social techno-economic groups. And the variance is lower again. So we don't really have a lot of flexibility in the system on this day. So we show in the study that households with heat pumps have a higher maximum consumption during peak load hours, higher average consumption, and higher median consumption. And here we have to find also in energy communities new solutions to really deal with situations like that. Because on these days, on cold days, we really have a high grid pressure. And maybe district heating or concepts like this can be a solution. And on the last study, we looked at different grid tariff designs. So we have seen that different socioeconomic groups or techno-socioeconomic groups show different consumption patterns. And also these consumption patterns have a different impact on the grid. And now we have to find new volumetric tariffs, for example, that the burden of costs is shared in a fair way between the different participants in the energy community, but also otherwise in other distribution network areas. And here we see the dynamic critical peak pricing, for example, where we penalize the load during community or national peak hours. Here we see that especially the owners of heat pumps are impacted in the end. If we now switch to individual peak pricing, then we see that the penalizing in high consumption of any time, the electric vehicles owners are especially affected. And now a combination of both tariffs can be one solution to more or less penalize or at least share the burden of costs and also decrease the burden from low-income groups. And I only wanted to highlight these three aspects because if we think about flexibility in energy communities, then we always have to see how the public grid is included, which role the energy community is playing, and if this role has high responsibilities and what are we doing in times when there is a high pressure on the grid. And finally, we have to find new grid tariffs, for example, that we also deal with the flexibility issues we will have in the future. So much from my side.
That was it. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Fabian. That was very interesting. I'm not going to summarize everything, but what I heard is there is a relation between energy communities and flexibilities. Maybe we don't know it exactly, but we have a clue. We have a clue whether it's more like the heat pump flexibility or the electric vehicle charging flexibility. And you said, and that's what I take with me, don't charge your electric vehicle when the heat pump needs the power. So something like that.
At least this is one good point because we all want to have it warm, but it's easier at the moment to really make an electric vehicle flexible than really to see if we all electrify our heating system, then we will see a way higher burden on the grid than we see at the moment with the electric vehicle.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. We will have Manuela Oyan from Milano. She's a director of environmental transition in the mobility sector there. Maybe we need mobility communities or something. But before that, we had heard academia. Now we hear the practice, Gerhard. Practitioner from a local utility in a northern Bavarian city, which is meanwhile a bit renowned, I would say, Wunsiedel. Your turn, Gerhard.
Thank you. You see my slide?
Yes, we are fine.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Now it doesn't work here again. Sorry, I shared too early. You see it again?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, but something is frozen on my computer. Sorry about that. I have to stop again. So until I get this repaired, just let me do the intro verbal. So my name is Gerhard Meindl. I am responsible for the R&D projects and future projects in SWW. SWW is located in Wunsiedel, that is the northeastern corner of Bavaria, between the Czech and the Thuringian border. And we have been dealing quite a lot with flexibility in the last, let's say, 8 years. So we came to know the subject on with the GoFlex project. That was our first contact with the idea of flexibility, flexibility aggregation, and all the other stuff. So maybe Ludwig, if this doesn't work with my computer, you should jump in. I sent the latest slide set to you.
When? Now?
Maybe half an hour ago.
Okay, let me see. I do what I can. Gerhard Meindl, here we go.
Yes.
Always
so after
in support. Wait a second.
Yes, will do.
Yes, I have it already.
Great.
No, you have it as well. We are done.
Okay, so just click on.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah, that's me. Click on. And this
That's
is the map.
Bavaria.
Yes, again. So this is the slide on how we get used to flexibility thinking. We started in the left upper corner with the GoFlex project in 2016. I think, Ludwig, you remember?
Oh, yeah. Good
Quite
old
well.
times.
And this was on flexibility only. How to create flexibility, how to introduce people to flexibility thinking, how to aggregate it, and how to prepare it for, let's say, being traded. Then we entered 2 other consortia. The one was for EdgeFlex in the left down corner and Fever in the right upper corner, nearly at the same time. And they were dealing with different types of flexibility, or let's say different use of flexibility, and introduced the physical and the trading part of flexibility use. And also you see a little star. This means that they are dealing with energy communities as well. And in the meantime, we entered our 4th project on the issue with the flexibility, that's GlocalFlex in the right down corner. And there too, we are dealing with the energy communities, which makes us think, yes, we can, let's say, get started to work with an energy community. As you can see in the left down corner, this is our idea. And please look at the figure that is half in and half out. That's us. And why this is us, in one of the next slides, you will see which roles we are playing in the moment. So the idea is, if we get started with a small energy community and we are successful after we have a full set of regulatory boundaries and can fulfill it, the basic idea is to try to migrate the whole company, SWW, being 100% municipally owned, into an energy community. And when this is successful, we want to migrate our regional, municipal, let's say, energy and flexibility association we have built in the past, called SINOP, Zukunftsenergie Nordostbayern, into a super energy community. But this is future, this is wishful thinking, but this is a plan which is set or laid down in the strategy we are going to follow. Next one, please. So what did we learn, and what is the outcome of all those projects? So this is a sketch of the new business model of SWW, which will be set up for the 1st of January 2025. In the middle of the picture, you see SWW. in its 4 active roles as of today. So we are a DSO, we are an energy retailer, we are an owner and operator of loads of renewable assets, and we are an aggregator of flexibility in the making, because we have set up a system that for now we use for redispatch to zero, but this is basically designed for flexibility aggregation, and we will migrate it through the steps of redispatch to 0, 3.0, 4.0, X0, until we really have connected every renewable generation unit. And this puts us in a position with a new business model. As I said, you look at the purple box on the left-hand side now, right down corner, there you see the full BRP, 1st of January 25, together with that will help us to deal with that situation. The day-ahead trader will do the BRP service for us as well, and we will sign contracts with an intraday trader that will boost our business opportunities in the energy market. And in the upper part of the purple box, you already see the energy communities, because we have come to a decision that energy communities is a very vital part of our business. So we will foster the idea of energy communities be founded within our grid, and we will always help them to get along with whatever they like, with what type they want to set up. We will support them. And on the right-hand side, in the yellow box, you see the physical world, the system operation and stability. We will make use of any physical balancing support we can get from prosumers, prostormers, energy communities, whomever. We will implement all activities we have to do in any case. That's for the physical balancing issue with the redispatch and the voltage control issue with the redispatch. We will implement some measurement gizmos. That's an example with the Edge PMU that was developed during the EdgeFlex project. And we also have taken over the idea of energy communities acting as virtual power plants. We call them the virtual power plant 2.0, as an active part in the physical grid balancing business with all their flexibilities they can provide. I know this is a little complex, but there are basic, let's say, principles that we have put in there and that we tried out in those 4 projects. Bless you. And this also needs to have a basis, and this is what we are talking about. You have an aerial view of our energy park, which is in place in Wunsiedel. The most important or most interesting issue is the blue shining visual in the left down corner. That is our electrolyzer, which is built now and operable with 8.75 megawatts. And around that, you see a pellets production, the big one just behind it, with 175,000 year tons of wooden pellets that we use in certain CHPs in our grid. But most of it we sell to the market. And there is another pellet production unit and several CHPs and a wastewater treatment plant slightly outside the picture, where we use the oxygen from the hydrolyzer, and we use the whole heat, the wasted heat inside the park. So as you see, H2 becomes a vital part of our future energy system, and we use it for electricity production, but we also use it for storage, we use it for heating, and we use it for mobility purposes. And in storage thinking, we want to migrate our existing natural gas distribution system into an hydrogen storage system. And the good thing is we took the right polymer when we built the distribution system. So the polymer is H2 proof. Next one, please. In addition, we want to put every customer and every citizen of Wunsiedel into a position that he or she can take an active part in it. So we want to motivate them and help them financing and technically set up system where every building becomes a generation, storage, and balancing partner with several assets, including a bidirectional car charging unit. And this we will see as, let's say, the minimum or the basic part of the upcoming system. And for all those which cannot afford an own roof with a PV, we have introduced means of micro flexibility. They can aggregate with their household appliances by using certain gizmos to get them connected and steerable. And this is the final picture, local value creation through integrated energy solutions. We want to put it on every level. So we start with a single building, then we build quarters of buildings, then we introduce larger types of buildings, and we do industrial and bigger setups. We introduce all our renewable assets we already have, and we really invite anybody or everybody, however, to form an energy community and be an active part of the system. We offer the support to get all the systems balanced in themselves, first of all, and then in certain levels up. And we want to share with all participants the revenues.
Thank you. Sharing typically is not what the boss of a company wants. I see the picture of your boss, Marco Prasta. Why does he want to share with energy communities?
Because he has to share with the municipality anyways. We are 100% municipal. So whatever we earn, it goes to the mayor or to the city.
So municipalities play a role. You are in a special role with your utility. You are municipally owned.
Right.
Still there
are small enough to act on all levels.
Okay. Makes it a bit easier.
Yes.
If you had a choice, would you go for other European projects that do research on hydrogen or research on energy communities?
Both. Both.
What is it that energy communities can do in the hydrogen world? I mean, isn't that a big world and the energy communities are dealing with small people?
No, there can be hydrogen in an energy community as well, because an energy community could also be a fundraising instrument for larger assets. You can have a quarter battery in there. You could have a small or medium-sized electrolyzer in there if there is sufficient energy produced in there. And we would take care about the optimal use of the energy and the hydrogen and share the profits with them.
So thanks, Gerhard. At least we have some hints that utilities goals, energy communities, technological goals somehow could go together. We need to discuss it further. Thank you, Gerhard. Stay here.
You're welcome.
I see Michele jumping in. When Michele jumps in, he has a question.
Yes, Thank you very much. It's more a comment than a question. When you speak about the hydrogen in the local level, I think we need to consider not only the hydrogen as energy vector, but also as a chemical vector. So there may be applications of hydrogen in local industries where the molecules are needed and not only where the energy is needed. So I think that also in what we call the hydrogen valleys, I think there could be a very good application as well.
So to be honest, you picked the right idea, because for setting up the 8.75 megawatt electrolyzer, we formed a consortium with a dealer of technical gases to fill the last gap in the financing, and he already he claimed the complete production for the first 2 years to be sold to his customers.
Okay, guys, let's bring more people to the table. We have invited 5 people that will join us for a panel now. I'm sharing the names. I'm not gonna introduce you guys because you know yourselves the best. Everybody has 99 seconds to say, what are you doing when you are not here? What's your profession? Why are you interested in what we are doing? In all these intro presentations, what struck you the most? What would you think is worth discussing? Not ladies first this time, Austria first this time. We heard that
Austria
you are
first,
the
okay.
Andreas, go ahead.
My name is Andreas Türk. I studied chemistry and economics, and I work at Ioneo Research Company in Graz. If I'm not participating in this webinar, I'm dealing with energy communities and flexibilities. So DECIDE is one of my Horizon 2020 energy community projects, expects another project on flexibilities. I would like to make a comment regarding Austria. Yes, we have 800 energy communities, but most of them are very small. We're creating a mosaic of small entities. And we have a lack of clear vision on the systemic role of energy communities. And I would like to further discuss this after the other presenters, panelists have introduced themselves.
Thank you. That was around 99 seconds.
Yes,
next in the row, we have Sabine Rödel, a living mayor of a small town in Bavaria, in the Allgäu region. Sabine, why did you join us for the second time already?
I think it's a really, first, hello everybody. I think it's a very important topic, to be honest, and I was very impressed by the words of my colleague in Wunsiedel, not my colleague, but Gerhard Meindl from Wunsiedel. I mean, we have an energy community which was founded 100 years ago. So we had a clear vision 100 years ago, what we want to do and how we want to be flexible with our energy. And in today's days, it's really getting more and more complex. And so I hope that we manage to get this the areas in the regulations a bit better, so that we can come to an energy sharing, a real energy sharing. That's the reason why I'm here.
Okay, we will see. We have Miloslav Franek from Prague.
Good afternoon.
When I met you first, you were working in the local administration, municipal administration. Are you still there, or did you now escape to the PSOE?
Now fully involved in Prague renewable energy team. Yes, we've been starting together with Prague municipality, with the city of Prague. My name is Miloslav, and we try to put in place things which been organized and planned within a Prague climate plan, which one of the points was establishment of very specific, would say, renewable energy team to help develop systems mainly on rooftop photovoltaics and other renewables on Prague buildings. Prague owns about 8,000 roofs. I would say it's different types of buildings with starting from schools to reasonable places of social, cultural, and others. Even the technological halls like wastewater treatment plants, other places. And that's the point we try to set up the community for Prague. Finally looking for sharing the energy as well within the Prague community. And the second part is the support to the inhabitants with the buildings of flats to become members, and we are trying to support them getting the photovoltaics for their houses.
So would it be wrong if I call it Super Energy Agency?
Well, not at the moment. Maybe in short time we grow that time. At the moment we have something like 12 photovoltaics on the roofs. Other 14, 16 now being in design stage. That's the situation. Still a little bit far to superb.
Next one, Manuela Oyan from Milano. Not in energy, but in mobility, or at least
no, in
energy.
No more. Okay. So AMAT is the environmental and mobility agency of the municipality. We say the technical arm of the municipality. We are owned by the municipality. So I'm from the environmental transition department. So we provided support to the municipality to develop and now implement the air and climate plan, aiming at full decarbonization by 2050. So there is a huge pressure now on the renewable energy side, also as an enabling factor for the decarbonization of the city. And we also pay attention to the topic of the just transition. And so for us, renewable energy, also in the perspective of the just transition, is a win-win opportunity. We have a few projects that they are still at the design phase. So I can share with you our experience on this, but I'm very curious to learn more about flexibility, because up to now we are more looking at strategy and policies and not so much at the functioning, the real functioning of the smart grid. So because we are relying on our DSO, but then that's for me an opportunity to understand more what we should expect from our DSO.
Now you completely left out the M in the AMAT. How about mobility? How is that linked to this discussion?
Yeah, I will explain a little bit more. As said, we are very at an early stage. We are now setting the strategy and putting in place all the technicalities for then having the smart mobility system connected to the overall system. But it's still early in the process.
We will hear more. And we invited David Shipworth. Actually, I don't know where you stem from, somewhere from the island. And you have a new king, I guess. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But now you are IEA.
Right. Thank you, Ludwig. Welcome all. Thank you. So, yes, I'm a professor of energy in the built environment at University College London. I also chair the User-Centered Energy Systems Technology Collaboration Program. It's a 15-member nation technology collaboration program that sits under the auspices of the IEA. We really look at how we construct and maintain, if you like, the sort of democratic mandate, and make sure people give approval for the energy transition. So how do we make sure there's something in it for the people who we need in terms of support to make those changes? As part of that, I also run something called the Global Observatory on peer-to-peer energy trading, which looks at collective self-consumption and transactive energy. That has about 26 countries around the world. So we just met in California to discuss what's going on in the US. In terms of this topic, I'm really interested in how do we get people's consent to basically use their assets, because a lot of the assets we're talking about aren't going to be owned by the energy sector per se. So we have to get their consent. How firm is that flexibility going to be? I worry that it will evaporate at the moments we need it. So, is that regulated? Is it through law, through contracts, through markets? How do we do that? And then, how do we make sure that we can basically construct the social consensus? What do people want out of these things? If we're going to use their assets, we better make sure we're delivering something that is in their interest as well as the grids.
Thanks. Years ago, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I met the fathers and mothers of these directives that describe the energy communities in Europe, and they had something in mind. As you said, David, bring it to the people. Municipalities, mayors are closer to the people than the European Commission. The idea was, let's create a door for these energy communities where people can participate. After 5 or 6 years, I'm asking Andreas and also Miroslav, because I know that you have been dealing a lot with that question. Not into detail, but are you happy with what happened after 5 years with these energy communities?
May I start? I'm also following up the transposition in all EU 27 countries, and they're fundamentally different. So I think we have a big patchwork now in Europe. This may be suboptimal. The second is, I don't know any country that has a clear vision on why we need energy communities, just transposing the directives. And coming back to Austria, yes, we have 800 in the pipeline, 400 are operational, but we don't really understand what is the role of energy communities. It's like a big mosaic that is emerging, and there's no umbrella, no overall bigger vision behind this.
So a long way to go. Maybe provision of flexibility.
It's a long way to go. It's Austria's maybe front runner regarding the number of energy communities emerging, but we're not the front runner regarding the understanding on the systemic nature and role. There's not a discussion on this.
Miroslav, did the directives help you?
It does in general. On the other hand, we still do not have the legislative taken to the Czech participation yet. It's still being postponed again. On the other hand, we used to have quite interesting situation about 1.5 years ago, as I remember, when one of the major suppliers of energy has been bankrupted, has been based on the spot sales, not on the long terms as the bigger players normally do. And within 1 week, as we just started our website on a registration for installation of the photovoltaic with Prague renewable team, we realized about 250 registrations in 1 week suddenly, which when David was talking about the way how to get people interested, several steps and several small crises on the market can help a lot. On the other hand, there are the general interest, maybe starting from energy demand, democracy, whatever, which help. And it depends on each person in the municipal level or on the building owner level.
Okay, so more or less there's interest, but still deficiencies. We keep going. Okay, but now let me ask, in this case, the two ladies. So you are representing also municipal frameworks, Manuela, Sabine. I mean, Sabine, you said you have an energy community since 100 years. You mean this cooperative, the Energiewerke or Elektrizitätswerke? Are you considering to create new energy communities like they do in Wohnsiedl, or what does it mean today to do or to create in a municipal framework an energy community?
I think the establishment of such a community is not really the big problem. You can handle the framework, really the legal framework that works. But the question is whether you get out what you really expect, meaning a real energy sharing. And when I look at the charts we've seen before, I think especially in Germany, we have really room for improvement at that area, because at the end of the day, we do not have a real energy sharing. And people want to have more than a financial investment, and I think that's also what we want to see in a local community. We want to have the people who identify themselves with this community, because at the end of the day, they will only save energy if they really have identification with it. And therefore, it's a big challenge for a local community to establish new ones. Although we are thinking about it, because the old one is a very financially attractive community, but it's more or less a little bit of a closed shop with 300 stakeholders, and it's very difficult to get new people in, because they would have to pay for the values which are now in this community, and therefore we are thinking about having new ones.
But couldn't they support the establishment of new energy communities like the utility in Wohnsiedl does?
Sure. I mean that's one of the very big players. If we want to have a chance doing or creating a new energy community, I think we need the know-how of the old one. Without the know-how of the specialized people, okay, it's very, very difficult.
How is that in Italy? Manuela, Michele told me that you established an energy community in Milano. Is that true?
I mean, as said, we have many projects on energy communities. What's happening now is that the electricity demand is fast increasing, because cities as Milan, for the heating, we are traditionally using gas boilers, but also due to the fact that we were afraid about a gas shortage over the winter, and also the price was increasing. There is a move to heat pumps, and also because we are using geothermal energy for heat pumps. So in the new buildings, for example, they mainly use the heat pumps. This means high increase in electricity demand, as well as due to mobility. So there is a bottom-up push for putting renewable energy communities in place. So also the municipality is setting up its strategy and trying to understand also how public buildings could be used within the communities. So in our case, we are first looking at self-consumption. So the recommendation is, as far as possible, to directly use the photovoltaic energy for self-construction. And if there is a surplus, then this can be shared across the renewable energy communities. But the full legislation in Italy is not yet completed. There are some final steps to be reached to really have renewable energy communities running. So there are many projects in place, almost ready, but they are not yet fully operational.
So, I mean, what I know, you have a very favorable legal framework in Italy, but not 800. I don't know how many.
Yeah, but there are still some limitations. For example, the size of the communities. Yeah. Up to yesterday, it was just 100 kilowatt, and this is not much. So we are waiting for the final legislation text where they will allow for higher size of the community, because, you know, the smaller the community, the less interesting it is, because also of the complexity of the management of the community. Yeah. So we would like to be able to have higher size communities, and so engage also higher number of households joining the community itself.
I see David's hand, and I also wanted to ask you, David. I mean, you have an overview. You are a professor, you are in IEA, you are looking at what the states do. I mean, if it would work, if every country has 800 or 8,000 energy communities and we succeed and everybody wants to do it, the door is open with the new electricity market design in Europe anyway. I mean, given everybody does it, does that stabilize the system? Is it a good idea to go that distributed, many groupings interacting? That's completely new. Isn't it also dangerous?
Yes, I think is the answer to is it also dangerous? But I think, I mean, just quickly on the question of scaling. Scaling these communities is tricky. It's a bit like balancing a broomstick on the end of your finger. You have to add in generation capacity alongside heat pumps and electric vehicles. And if you get that balance wrong, then the incentives, the benefits to participants can collapse quite quickly. So how we scale these is interesting. And once we've seen reach a natural size and they stop before adding in others, and then you spawn new ones. So there's a debate about how you do that. But there's some very interesting work out of the US, which has, I think for the first time, looked at where it is best to install distributed solar plus battery systems. And they co-optimized over both the transmission and distribution systems. And the conclusions they reached is that embedding these in the distribution system and maximizing local for local consumption. So you have a local flexibility market, you use the embedded generation and storage locally. That gives you headroom on the network for bringing in your larger solar and wind farms over your transmission system. So there's modeling work that says this can be done correctly. But as you say, there's it's a completely different model, and we would need to make sure that we can put these energy community systems in place and run them reliably. And we have seen sometimes in the States and elsewhere where when we get to non-normal conditions, people opt out of the system. So we saw that in Texas and elsewhere. People will withdraw their assets from participating in the system when they think the system is about to fail. And that's exactly when you do not want all your assets departing your system. So how we regulate these and how we make sure they're robust and provide firm flexibility and local balancing is going to be crucial to the scaling question.
Let's come a bit to the discussion of energy communities and flexibilities. But beforehand, if David, you lower your hand, your panelists, you can also raise your hands and ask questions. And also people, please feel free, ask questions in the chat. I'm following it. But let me first, we said that energy communities may have a potential for flexibility. I mean, the first level would be, and I think Fabian Scheller said it, that people would adapt their consumption to the generation of their own generators, maybe. But what do you feel? I mean, I'm asking, I don't know, Sabine, Miloslav, you are close to the people. Would people adapt somehow? I mean, would they reduce consumption if sun is not shining? Or would they say, okay, when it's shining, I take my energy. If it does not, I take the nuclear energy from the transmission grid. Is there hope that people adapt?
That would be in a very philosophical way of interruption of discussion with the public. I believe that the same important step would be not only getting some batteries and accumulation. On the other hand, we have to change from driving the consumption to whatever we need to drive in the consumption according to the renewables. So basically driving our consumption by using the smart way of controlling when and what type of energy is consumed. This would change. You know, we used to have water heating system in our homes being driven by energy in night. Within the new system, we need to drive the consumption just in time when the energy is coming from the renewables. That would change much. And each of the, I don't know, washing machine up to freezers and cooling systems and heating pumps as well must be driven by the supply of energy. Once it's available from renewable, it will start. So this is part of the system, and it will be more flexible than people are, I believe.
That may be it. I see David writing about storage. We will come to that, David. But first, I'd ask the others, I mean, without storage, obviously, I mean, if I can store the sun for the night and I can take it from my store, I need not adapt a lot. But what would you feel, Sabine, or also Andreas? Would people somehow be flexible in this case, electricity consumption?
Yes, I believe so. I think driving the consumption to the availability is also a question of financing, of money. And okay. Professor Scheller said before that he is thinking about time-dependent thresholds that penalizes individual peak consumptions. And I think as soon as you go down that path and you say people have an advantage if they drive their consumption to the availability, then you have a chance. This must not be only financial paths, but I think it's very important to have a financial aspect. As smaller the group, I think as more the mental processes are, and the people will try to reduce their consumption anyway. As bigger as more anonymous the group is, as more difficult it will become. And I think it's a question also of smart systems which regulate the consumption in a way that is optimized, really.
I know you are in an area where people are very proud of self-supplying themselves with cheese and and all other types of food. Does such regional identification play a role in that game?
I think so, yes, because and also I think what is also a very big role is the question of blackout scenarios. We are all discussing this blackout last winter, and okay. As more as you are regional independent, as more as you look on that, and this is really a regional identification aspect, as more you will have a chance to drive the consumption.
Okay, Andreas, I had seen your hand. I mean, is that an Austrian position now, or is it the scientist's position?
I want to come back to Austria. So 400 energy communities operational. I would say the first 100 were bottom-up initiatives in municipalities, very, very small entities without any energy planning. It just grew as it grew. But recently, big utilities started to implement energy communities top-down. In Austria, traditional market actors are allowed to operate and own assets in the energy community, and this triggered the expansion of energy communities a lot. But also, these top-down energy communities driven by traditional market actors had some planning behind it. They know how an optimal energy community should look like regarding mixing load profiles. They can bring flexibilities of a large number of consumers to the markets. The small one can't.
Okay.
At the same time, if the traditional actors become more prominent on the markets, the question is whether this corresponds to the idea of the clean energy package on citizen empowerment. This is the trade-off.
But you are saying a bit top-down is as important as bottom-up. Is
It's as
top-down
important
also
as
when a
bottom-up.
mayor fosters it, or?
Yes. For example, in Lower Austria, a daughter company of the biggest utility founded the largest energy community in Europe. And these are economies of scale. They use the consumers like a virtual power plant, and they can bring it to the market, but not a small village. And I want to point out what David said. It's important to know what to put where. Just providing incentives for self-consumption, like reduced grid tariffs, may lead to overinvestment of assets.
Manuela, you wanted to ask or respond to
Yes.
something?
Yes, you were asking before about citizens' behavior.
Yeah.
And how to educate citizens. What we are trying to do, and we are doing some pilot tests, is that since in our case, electricity would be useful for heating and cooling the buildings, after you have refurbished your buildings, if your buildings become smart, you can optimize the use of energy in the building, also with building management systems. And also, buildings can be store heat, for example.
Yeah.
Due to the thermal mass of the building. So if you are smart enough, you can heat or cool your house at the right timing so that you can maximize also the use of your self-produced electricity. So if the overall system and the building itself is smart and the occupants know how to optimize energy usage, that will allow for this kind of flexibility.
You use the term the building stores energy. So what you are saying is you need the building as a storage?
You can use it, the thermal mass, if it's a refurbished building. So if you have the right envelope in the building itself, and for example, you use heat thermal activated buildings, I mean, you can really benefit of the building envelope as a storage system. I think David was mentioning that before.
David, you have put a sentence in the chat where you also talk about storage. Can you explain a bit more the role of storage? Is it central storage? Is it distributed storage? Is it heat storage, or is it battery storage? What is the role of the storage?
I think that, I mean, ideally every PV would have some amount of battery storage attached to it. You can create automation, you can use smart thermostats if you're, you can flex heat into electric vehicles and heat pumps. So all of those processes work. But if I was going to have to rely on this for grid purposes, I would ideally like a battery attached to the PV system with some degree of regulated control over some percentage of that battery capacity. Now, this is what we haven't discussed, is what is the legal contractual arrangements over these assets. And we've seen different models. So Moixa, who do virtual power plants, retain the capacity to override any input from the owners of those batteries to use them in a virtual power plant capacity for 20% or something like that of that battery's capacity. I think we need that capacity to ensure we can deliver the flexibility the grid services need, but only for a fraction of the total capacity.
Do I get that right? I mean, a thinking model. I have an energy community. They want to self-supply them at a maximum or optimum. They buy themselves some big batteries and they increase their self-supply. So they store the electricity in their batteries while other people are lacking. So does that help the system stability?
So it can do, depends if you think other people are lacking. So the challenges I think we face are twofold. One is around grid capacity constraints. So needing to create headroom on the network for greater penetration of intermittent renewables. The other, sitting below that, is maximizing low carbon consumption when low carbon energy is on the grid. So there will be times when we might have grid reliability problems, and batteries can help there. But that's the situation where I think we need, say, the DSO to have the capacity to control, say, 20% of any installed battery assets.
Okay, nice idea. So I have my own energy community, I do my self-supply, but the grid operator controls 20% of my storage. Nice for the grid operator. I wonder how energy communities will talk about that. Okay, Manuela, it was mentioned that batteries of electric vehicles could play a role. Will they? Did you discuss that? Did you look at that in Milano?
I mean, there is some research work working on this. It's the university working more with the system operator on this topic. And what we are really doing now is to put the infrastructure in place for battery recharge, and putting also the building, the multifamily building, in the right situation as to be able to recharge vehicles. But we are not yet there with the smart system for the time being.
When Michele shows up, Michele, you own an electric vehicle, I know. Do you want to be flexible in charging? Do you want to feed back to Manuela's grid? Huh?
Yeah, I think that the smart recharging is one of the key solutions that also David was referring to. Through the smart recharging, you can afford to have twice or three times the number of electric vehicles under recharge with respect to the what I would call the dumb recharging system. In RSE, for example, we are conducting a pilot on the smart recharging of the entire electric vehicles fleet of the company. And we are using the smart recharging as one of the possible flexibility tools for managing the internal campus electricity or energy system. We cannot, unfortunately, yet use the vehicle to grid system because the types of vehicles that we are using do not allow to give back electricity to the electricity network. This is a problem more of the vehicles than on the energy system as it is organized. But starting from the flexibility and from the making the flexible recharging, you can already gain very, very high levels of flexibility. The other key is do not only consider electricity as such. You need to consider the integrated energy system with bringing together electricity, heat, like we heard before, but also other energy forms.
Okay, in the next few minutes, I would like to talk to you or with you a bit about how can we foster whatever system favorable behavior. What is the role of policy, from EU policy to national to local policy? But maybe first a question, I mean, to those that are close to citizens, to people. I don't know, Sabine, Manuela, Andreas, you know that. What hinders people to participate in the energy community, to be flexible, to contribute to the welfare of the energy community or the entire system? What hinders people?
If I may make a comment to smart recharging, there are also real life realities, and this means for certain moments in time, you cannot use your car. It limits your flexibility. And if I have a car, I want to be free and not to be inflexible. This is something we discussed in an Austrian project.
Okay. So what you say is providing flexibility to the energy system reduces the flexibility in using the car.
Exactly.
So we have to come to a solution.
Car means having a car means freedom, and if in the next moment, or for example, we made a joke. If in the next moment I meet a nice girl and want to drive her to the beach and have to tell her, wait, no, the car is providing flexibility.
What hinders people? I mean, you said it, Sabine. You have this cooperative and it's owned by 300 parties or so, and the others cannot get in or something that you said, but they can create their own one. I mean, what hinders people to create an energy community and do something on their own?
I think at the moment is that you don't get what you want, because it's not really a community where I can share energy. It's really an investment, and I get out a dividend, and still I have to pay charges for all sorts of or taxes and stuff like that. That's all not what the people want. They want to be part of that, and they want to get their energy. If I feed 100 in, I want to get 100 out, and if I need 120, I just want to pay for the 20 and not for the 120. And we have to see that for the moment, it's for most of the people, it's not so expensive that they go for the effort without really having what they want at the end of the day.
So there's a way to go to make it.
Yes,
easy.
I mean, just looking from our own buildings, from the local community. I mean, I have more buildings, and I have brilliant roofs on the one side where I don't need the electricity. On the other side, I have a building where I don't have a very sensible roof, but I would need it. I can't use my two buildings and see it as a community. I have to see every building separate, and then you really think, is that worth it? Or is it perhaps better to use a relatively cheap tariff, what you can still get, and wait until the framework changes and then go for it, instead of renting out my roofs now and then not being able to get it back and then do what I really want?
Yeah, I will ask you, Sabine, and the others the question, what can you guys do about it? But I think first is David's hand.
I was just going to jump in with some of the proposed changes that are in the reform of electricity market design documents from the Commission. So that proposes that people can have multiple suppliers, which I do think addresses some of these challenges. So you could have a separate supply arrangement for your electric vehicle or your heat pump, something that you are happy to have a degree of flexibility with, but keep a secure supply for, or a flat tariff structure for the rest of your demand. We've seen a lot of interest in the UK in people in multiple supplier models that would allow them to take any available local generation, but know that they can always have a grid level backup if they need it, if there's not enough. Because I think a lot of this is about perception of risk. And I'm happy to participate, but I want to know that my bills will be lower than they would otherwise be, and that I'll always have the energy I need. And if we can engineer the risk out of that, I think we could see a lot of uptake.
So it's not only about money, it's also about risks and but what can we, I mean, if we believe, and more or less we all do believe, that energy community is a good idea, that in general terms energy communities could contribute to system stability with flexibility and so on. So we want to somehow get them. So now what can we do? I mean, we can, as Sabine said, create a better legal framework in Germany. Fine, nice. Would they go then? Maybe not. What else can we do? What can we do, say, more on the local, on the regional level? How can we promote it? I mean, Sabine, I put you in the newspaper and all your citizens see that you are contributing to European discussions, and obviously this is important. Does that help?
I think they will come back to me and they say, when you've been successful, just come back to us and ask me again.
Okay.
Because at the moment they will say, where's my benefit? I want to be, it's much more important for them to be independent. So if I have a big house and if I have a good roof, I say, I do it all on my own. Why do I need an energy community? So I have my electric vehicle and I'm looking for all that sort of stuff that I'm independent. And the people who live in rented space, they have a bit of an issue, but the question is whether the other ones will have the solidarity to give it back to the others. And so I think we do need these frameworks. I mean, what we can do as a local community at the moment, we can look for places for open space photovoltaic. We can discuss with the council, for example, about landscape, because we are preserved landscape. 80% of our whole area is protected, and these are all discussions you have to have because of the barriers. And that's stuff what we can do at the moment. But I think before we have this framework, there will not be too much movement in the discussion.
So it will be a monetary, economical framework that we need. Is that the case in Prague, Miloslav? I mean, do you get the people with the money? Can you please switch on the microphone?
Majority of the people who come to us with the interest to install the photovoltaics are more driven by being independent.
Okay.
Second, there is quite strong environmental influence as well these days, as the younger generation is really fostering that question. Really important decision in that is the approach from Prague citizens, feeling that is in their hands, getting out of the major players. Either it could be the grid system, either it could be the major energy producers. So sometimes they feel some unfair behaviors, let's say it, not a strong way. So they feel they take their own action and they get some more fair help. What is interesting to see from our prospect is that they come to us for the reason that we are municipal team. It's not any business behind that, not any profit action behind that, and they accept that we do something as a support for them. It's not about money, it's about the know-how, and they believe that our support, which comes almost for free, it's more fair for them, as we basically do not offer more than the business installers. They do the donation services for them. They install the photovoltaic, they connect to the grid, they do basically the same. On the other hand,
support. It's a question of support, of service, of fairness, of trust.
Exactly.
Maybe that's the difference. About that. When I heard Sabine, she has this local cooperative, more or less fair, I would say, trustworthy, and people do not feel a big need to create something new. But in other cases, they do. So that's a distinction that we have to make, probably. But I have a hand from Manuela.
Yes, I would like to support the position of Prague because we have a similar situation. We have, as a municipality, we have an energy help desk that is the one-stop shop of the city, and we receive many requests from the citizens to support, because they know, of course, we are the municipality, so we don't have any business interest in giving recommendation. In my view, the Italian system is the Italian legislation is somehow well done. I mean, there is this premium tariff, there are reduced grid charges, so the system is really very favorable to citizens and to the creation of the renewable energy communities, but is also extremely complex and new system. So I think we need to empower more the citizen, to educate the system to be more confident, and then I think there will be a fast development of the energy communities.
Yeah.
And that's why we are trying to provide all the support and also somehow lead by examples, as said, by using the public buildings as a starting point for local energy communities.
We are a bit after how can we motivate people, either alone or in a group, in an energy community. Andreas, have you seen what your friend Gerald Franzl says? And I think that could be something interesting to discuss. The difference between flexibility, so I provide it or I don't. If I have to go with my lady to the beach, I don't. And the reserve. The reserve has to be guaranteed. So we don't expect that the energy community would be the new reserve virtual power plants, but it's something like freedom in providing flexibility. Is that it?
I think it is a very good point Georg made, and indeed aggregators know how to deal with uncertainties.
But didn't we hear also today that the DSO should have control? What was it, 20% of my battery? So, isn't that somewhere in between voluntary contribution and enforced contribution?
Exactly, because we give up something.
So, David, you are nodding.
There's a whole spectrum, and I think this is where we have yet to have the debate. So, at one end, some of the asset capacity could be regulated, like through building regulations or grid codes. That goes through to some kind of contract. When I buy my battery, I sign a contract that an aggregator can use a certain percentage of it. Then we get into flexibility markets where I'm willing to bid in the use of my battery at the right price, and I enter a contract through to purely voluntary arrangements like Tesla do in the US, where they say, look, share your spare battery capacity, and people sign up and just give over their battery capacity. So there's a whole spectrum, and we need to understand how firm each element of that spectrum is.
Maybe this is what Gerhard Meindl said. They are more dealing with flexibility markets, not so much with flexibility controls. So voluntary participation. And to take again this example, if I meet this lady, I withdraw my bid on the market or something like that. So I'm free. That's important.
Yes, exactly.
Michele, is that it?
Yes, but you need to add another point, is the fact that I don't care very much about the fact that, well, I don't want to dismiss the lady to go to the beach, because I will always have the possibility with fast charger to stop for 10 minutes and reach the beach afterwards. So it's a question of technology. It's a question of technology. It's a question of using the developments and the technology, I think. I can always bring my lady to the beach, no doubt.
I know that. But let's come. I mean, we have to come also to an end. One of the big questions in this series of events is it the EC? Is it the national governments? Is it the local governments? Who can contribute? Do we have to point to Roma in Berlin, or is it something that we can do in Milano, Prague, Bad Hindelang? what type of policy, what level of policy is needed now? Now we are getting quiet, huh?
No, I think we need several levels, because on the local level you do the planning, and optimizing planning is so important for providing flexibilities for optimizing self-consumption. But also we need markets that are ready, that there's a market that create a demand. So I think the local level, the national level, both.
Or agencies like in Prague, Miloslav, is that the solution?
I think it's just part of the activity. You know, all the system, I believe, must be more complex. Without resolving all the things we have discussing now, we would not get further, as part of the community will stay out, part of the community would not be interested in environment, part of people would not want to become a prosumer, they would like to wait and get. So all together it must work. I would again agree with David Shipworth, who was mentioning that all the things must play together, and it's not easy now to say how far to get with each part of that. That would come. That would come. We do not know where we go in. It's all changing, and we are in really beginning, I would say.
When you say we, I mean, I don't exactly understand what happened there in Prague, but was it a political decision on the city level that you create this PSOE, or what was the role of policy?
Definitely, it's part of that is discussion about the cost. Certainly, this is driven by Prague decision makers to get the cost down. Part of that is joining the environmental green policies around the major cities around the globe. Second, for sure, we can say it could be within the votes. Elections would be sexy for some part of people. So altogether, that creates the program to get down 45% of CO2 emissions. And part of that is definitely energy.
Would you also say that with such an organization like the PSE, you are more flexible? I mean, in an administration, you are a bit more bound to the decision of the local government, to the administrative processes. Do you gain more flexibility by, I don't know, outsourcing it?
At the moment, we feel entirely opposite, as after the new administration came in power, we still do not know if they will fully agree with the Prague climate plan, or accept it, or adjust it, or whatever it will come from. So we are now a little bit behind of our plans, as we would like to have about 160 photovoltaics installed this year, where we do not have the agreement to finish the major, according to the public law, selection of the installers. We would like to have at least 7 companies to work for us, which was still not checked and improved by the new administration. We believe that would go ahead within a couple of weeks now, which will unblock our position, as the most important for us is to keep those who came to us by the registration, keep them interested and not get in, you know, okay, that was something new, right?
Difficult in a big city, probably. Is it easier
in
a small town, Sabine? Is it easier for you to cooperate with this existing cooperative and with the ideas of your local governments and the administration? Does that go together? Can you switch on, please?
Sorry, clearly it's easier because you know the players and you can talk to them directly. I think what we have is really on the one hand side that as a local community we don't have so much financing that we can do our own projects so easily, and this is a question of municipal self-determination, which on the other hand is limited by the frameworks, because if we really want to do something, I mean we're discussing wind energy. Very difficult, because then they say, oh, your area is a protected area, you can't have that. And to be very honest, we can't do very much, because there's always a protected area where we can't have open space photovoltaic, where we can't have wind energy, where we can't have water, because it's also a question of protected landscape. And so on the one hand side, we know the players and we know what we could do. On the other hand, we don't have the possibility to implement really.
Who hinders you? Is that then national or federal state governments, or who hinders you in, I don't know, such a windmill?
I mean, the first issue is really that it's a very complex topic. You need an awful lot of knowledge. And as a small village, you don't have that knowledge. You need the technical knowledge, you need the legal knowledge, you need people who are innovative, you need to have the craftsmen, the industry. And from my perspective, we would need a small village like ours, we would need sort of a hub in the area which is completely neutral. So no profit, no interest, because it's a higher community level, but really a neutral hub where I can go and where I can get support with my ideas, and where I can say, you know, I would like to have a wind energy at this place. What can we do? Instead of looking around for lots of groups like this here, or another project where I can get some money and stuff like that. It's relatively complex.
Michele, you listen. We have to talk about that when we meet in Roma. But how do these people? I mean, maybe I asked David. I would have asked her, but he's not around anymore. The IEA. You are in the IEA. You are a big international organization. Michele, you are in ISCAN. All these big international organizations. How do they discuss the role of energy communities, municipalities? Is it on the agenda in those discussions?
It's certainly on the agenda of the IEA, in part because I think of a recognition that if we have highly distributed assets, then we need to embed those in communities, and it becomes a political act, and we need to make sure that those people whose votes we need to maintain the drive for net zero have a role in this. So I think there is a significant role of creating a sense of investment and ownership in the energy transition by sort of communities more broadly. There's lots of elements within the technology collaboration programs of the IEA that look at energy communities. It's picked up in energy buildings and communities, which is a separate technology collaboration program. I think with respect to changes, I mean, Andreas is right. This spans everything from data protection law through consumer law into planning, legal structures of ownerships of buildings, occupancy tenant relationships, the grid codes, all of these aspects. And that's why it's hard, because it is something that cuts across the way we have previously constructed and thought of regulation. And, you know, you can't just wave all of the regulatory structures away. But this is where we get into looking at regulatory sandboxes and, you know, permission to trial things. But then we need to find a way to scale solutions outside of those. And that means the regulators have to be in the room and to understand how we manage the risks for people associated with changing the regulations.
Sabine, did you ever meet a regulator?
No, I sent our energy community guy.
Yeah, but you know why I'm asking. I mean, is it worthwhile, Michele? I mean, we are trying to bring people together that formerly didn't meet. And that is also something that we want to achieve in Roma, for example. Would it be worthwhile? I don't know. I mean, if you are personally interested in meeting a regulator, Sabine, but would it be worthwhile that the municipal level talks to regulators or legislators and speak out what they need or want or not?
I think legislators definitely. Regulators, to be honest, I'm not. I don't have the knowledge to decide that, because I don't really know what they can do for me. So
Okay.
first thing, I need someone who tells me this guy can help you in this aspect, and then I can tell you whether I want to meet him.
Okay, we have a beer together. Let's come to the last round. We have this next meeting in Roma. I share it so everybody at least knows the date. I do not really expect that everybody travels, but we would be more than happy, Michele, to have a nice round of people in Roma. We spend more time there, an entire half day, and as I know you and me, also an evening. But can we have suggestions from our panelists? What would you put on the agenda in the Roma meeting? What shall we discuss? Or maybe also whom should we invite? We are drawing on your experience and we trust you guys. Michele, you take the pen.
Andreas, if I
please.
may start, if we discuss about flexibilities, we very often discuss about markets, but I think there's a lot of scope to locally optimize flexibilities, to share flexibilities on a very local level. And this discussion is somehow a bit underrepresented.
So the market question. So
yeah,
local flexibility markets like they do in Wunsiedel.
Yeah, but maybe also sharing flexibilities within the energy communities, matching load generation, and not even going to any market. Just optimizing assets.
Okay, I don't cook while you go with your lady to the beach. Okay, I understand. Next one.
I would likewise support that. I think there's a lot to be gained by local asset coordination.
Yeah.
Even if it's just kind of ripple charging of electric vehicles up and down within a given low voltage network. Just sort of basic power systems control levels that we can put in place that diversify loads within network constraints. How far can we get with that in ways that give us the headroom higher up on the network? And then on top of that, we can start layering the market options or the options simply to spill energy out into your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I always remember colleagues in India talking about sharing apples, and they said, well, we have an apple tree, but we wouldn't dream of selling our apples to a neighbor. That would be terribly socially inappropriate. We'll just give them to them. We don't need them, so we'll just donate them to our neighbors. And there is that kind of level at which these can work. Not everywhere, but I think if we create the expectation, that can help balance these kind of assets, and particularly the collective self-consumption, I think, is important.
Maybe, Michele, we should invite a bit more people from societal research or philosophers, or I don't know what that means then at the end, David.
There's lots of people, those social researchers investigating this, and some really interesting findings around the sorts of people who buy these assets, the different motivations, and the extent to which they will then allow others to use their assets. It depends why they bought the asset in the first place. If they want to be autonomous, then...
And they want to be good people as well. The Indians with the apples. Michele, the Vaticano is nearby. We need to invite people from the Vaticano. But first, let's listen to the other recommendations. Miroslav, Manuela.
Yes, and I would also consider another aspect is that in all this framework there are well, you were mentioning we can say the Indian attitude of donating the surplus. On the other hand, if you look at a market situation, you will have very quickly situations of conflicting interests. And to bring together the conflicting interests of the guy who has bought the storage device and who wants to increase its return of investment of the storage device. You have the guy who has the PV panel. You have the guy who is managing a social housing aspect, and all these may be somehow in conflict in the management of flexibility inside the local communities. So I think social aspects are very important. Justice aspects are also very important, but keep in mind the conflicting interests in there.
That's okay. So more recommendations. I also see that Natalie Samovic is here. You said you will come to Roma. You can say it. What do you want us to talk about?
Yes, hello everyone. I guess I'm coming to Rome. I didn't get the final invite yet, but I guess so.
You get it.
Just two recommendations. I've shared the link to the very recent workshop of International Energy Agency that focused on, I think there were 4 representatives from across the world that were sharing the role of energy communities in their countries/regions. It's recorded and I've shared the link. Lots of takeouts and very different approaches. So that's what I would say in summary. Being quick suggestions, I would explore the topic that came up in the recent Smarten Symposium on the 19th of April, so very fresh. Role of the net positive districts in the energy communities. Mm-hmm. So the urban angle of it and interface from the sector coupling standpoint. And the second angle that we're also exploring in AOTI is related to the markets, specifically two-sided markets for the electricity and services to the grids. And two-sided is the key word here. There is more. I can always bring.
We will stay in contact. You send your wishes, but I don't want to leave the round before I got a recommendation from Milano, Manuela, and from Bad Hindelang. Is Sabine still around?
Maybe from my point of view, the topic of grid tariffs could be interesting, because today how the Italian system works is that you need still to pay for your electricity consumption to your system operator, and then you have a premium on the energy sharing, but still you pay for your consumption, the standard tariff. And the standard tariff system is that you have peak hours and low hours with different pricing. And so this does not go in the direction of flexibility. So you cannot ask people to use their washing machine at noon because they know the tariff is higher. And so they are used to make the washing machine in the evening or during the week.
Ludwig, Mike, Mikrofon.
Yeah. Geht über tutto bene.
Ah, okay. I said thank you to everybody. It was interesting, at least for me, maybe also for the audience, maybe even for the panelists. Thank you a lot.
Thanks a lot.
We learned something, Michele. We got some recommendations for our number 3. The agenda says that you have to summarize in 5 minutes. Say something wise, please. Thanks to everybody.
I won't. I think it is important that we all gather the ideas that have been shared here. Also, listening and re-listening to the recording of the meeting today. The only thing I can say is that we have a lot of food for thought in the preparation of the Rome meeting. But please consider the fact that the Rome meeting is going to be one single piece of the entire puzzle that has been put together in organizing these 3 meetings. So the 3 meetings must be seen as a whole, not as each one be conclusive by itself. So I think this was quite interesting. We have a lot of real experience, a lot of ideas, and we learn once again that even if I am an electricity engineer, we always more need to expand the vision towards the integrated electricity system on the one hand, but also taking into consideration so much the societal aspects, because especially when you deal with energy communities or with communities in general, the societal aspects, behavioral aspects, interest aspects, and the trust and the justice is needs to be intrinsically taken into consideration. Otherwise, you will only make a theory, and it may not be possible then to realize your design and your theory. So it is very, very important. So the last thing I can say is many thanks to Ludwig for his moderation. And this is not only a moderation, this is also very, very much a co-creation of content, but also of views and of real contribution. I thank all the panelists and all the keynotes that have agreed and that have participated in this meeting. The other thing I can say is that we really look forward to meeting you in person in Rome on the 14th of June. We will be in a very nice part of the town, and we will also organize not only the pre-meeting lunch, but also the apéro at the end of our half-day meeting. So thank you once again very, very much. And we will also have some written summary of the entire initiative while and when it is going to be over. Follow us on the National Stakeholders Coordination Group within the European Technology and Innovation platform on smart networks on energy for an energy transition. And we will be with you very soon. So thank you very much, Ludwig, and thank you very much to everybody for participating.
Bye.
Close the meeting 2 minutes earlier than promised. Have a good time. Have a good afternoon.
Ciao.
Have a good time to you. Ciao.